Hello, everyone. I want to thank you for joining me. This is going to be a video on how to stop drinking and to go from being dry to actually being sober. If you don't know my story, I have been sober since March of like 2006, and it has been an incredible journey. And I'd like to share a little bit of that with you today, specifically to if you're here and you're watching this, or you know someone that's really in the space that needs, or not needs, but is ready for a different possibility. This video may just give them that little nudge in order to make them on the path to wholeness. So the crux of drinking and everything, or any addiction, and let me just put this out there first, that even if you're watching this and you don't have a drinking problem, or you don't feel you have an addiction problem, we as humanity all have one common addiction. And so by giving you this first, everything else will have at least some sort of context that you can use it. We are addicted to the polarity. We're addicted to the duality. We're addicted to the trauma and drama, because the telenovela, the contrast of the soul, we are here to be able to know ourselves experientially. But we get caught up in the illusion. We get caught up in what it is. So instead of being in the world but not of it, being in the story but not of it, we get swept away, and then we don't use the illusion for its intended purpose, which is for us to know ourselves experientially. Now, going back a little bit from there, and actually I just remembered I need to make this public on my page. So if there's comments and things, I can see them. So bear with me for just a moment while I do that. And thank you for being here. And let's see, here we go. And this is actually only my second live stream since last April that I've done on my own. And this is something I'm going to be getting back to a lot more frequently. So if you have missed my videos where it's just me kind of talking, you can look forward to many more of them. I've been doing a lot of content creation over on TikTok and things, but it's really, now is the time, now is the space. And really that is the first thing to do when you have some sort of addiction, is just to start to notice it. Like years before I got sober, I knew I had a problem. I was actually in therapy lying to my therapist for like a year that I was sober, and I wasn't. I would stop drinking like 2 days before I would have my appointment, so like I could fool her. Like, who am I really fooling though? The only person I'm fooling is myself. So give yourself some credit. If you know you have in anything in your life, whatever the addiction might be, if you're noticing it, that's like the first thing. So you're noticing and you're like, okay, well, what's really happening here? And for me, it took me having to get to this place of being sick and tired of being sick and tired. But if I had the tools today, then I would have asked a question. I would have said, universe, what would it take for me to have a different experience? Because when you ask a question, like even topographical brain mapping now shows that it engages the brain differently. It's like the process of manifestation and creation. There's actually 7 ganglion nerve bundles that all correlate to the chakras, and they can actually map as you focus on an intention, like what else is possible, like truly being in the space of I would like to have a different experience, and not just going through the motions. There's a big difference. It's a congruency thing. Are you just saying it because you know you need to do something, or you think you need to do something? Are you being there with the totality of your being and saying, whoa, what is possible? Because that's what changed everything for me. And you're gonna think this is funny. I would go into the shower in the morning, and I had one of those stand-up showers, and that little shelf there for soap, I thought, well, that's clearly a place for a whiskey glass. I would bring whiskey in with me while I showered, yet I didn't think I had an issue until like later on. But I just show you that because, like, what insane choices are we making that we think are totally logical and seem to make sense, but then in hindsight you're like, wow. And then we judge ourselves for not seeing it sooner. But the thing of it is with any addiction, it's kind of like this energy of being in a space of disillusion. Like, you don't, like asking a fish, what is water? I don't know, it's everywhere. Like, you don't know that you're in it because you're in it so much. But starting to ask questions start to open up a different possibility. But it was one of those days. I was about to pass out, and I was miserable, and I knew, like, I could feel like things were off health wise and everything. And I made a demand. I didn't ask. I made a demand to the universe. I said, something must change. I literally, my prayer was, God help me. And the next day I had an emotional breakdown at work. And then I went in to get an assessment. And I remember the therapist, he's like, sometimes there's like these times where, we can make a recommendation and, get you into a program down the road. And, he's like, this is not one of those times. You need something like now. And like the next day I actually started rehab, and I went into IOP, dual diagnosis for depression and alcohol. But the tool for, if you're in that space, just a willingness for something different. Like I knew I had the problem. I was starting to notice it. And noticing is a big thing, but you're still like making the same choices. And choice is the thing that makes the most change. And what changed? One, I made that declaration to the universe. And two, I had the willingness to receive. Like for a long time, I just wanted to stop suffering. I didn't really want to change anything, right? And I would, and I, because I wanted to stop suffering, that's why I was drinking, because I'm an empath on steroids. And that's one of the biggest reasons people turn towards addiction and things like that, is because they're so aware, and it's so painful to be aware of what they're aware of, that they drink. But guess what? The awareness is still there. You're just separating the mind from being able to feel what's going on in the body. And by the time I got sober and I was actually in IOP, every day we had to say like how we felt. We go around the room. How do you feel today? And I remember like the first time I was like, I'm fine. And the whole room's like, and I'm like, what did I do? And like he's like, well, you're not allowed to say fine, because that means effed up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. You have to pick, how do you actually feel? And there was this huge board on the wall with all these different emojis. And I'm like, I have no idea. I was so disconnected from feeling. In fact, I didn't even feel anything truly, like have a deep emotional connection with anything or even myself, until just last year. And I've been sober all these years. Like I had emotion, but a lot of times it was just like there was like 1% of actual feeling in the moment. And granted, like these are my definitions of how I perceive and receive everything, and feel free to alter them for your own. But like emotions are kind of like locked up traumas and events that we didn't deal with. And feeling is in the moment. Feeling is the language of the soul. And you might be having something going on, and like there's like 1% that's like truly you're feeling in the moment. But now all the stuff that you didn't allow yourself to feel, and all the other things and people and places you were aware of, all of a sudden there's like this stagnant pool of energy that wasn't emotion, that now all of a sudden gets agitated. And that's why getting sober sometimes is such a or even getting free from the illusion of your perceived reality is so like a whirlwind of drama, because you have all these pockets of stagnant energy that people like. It's like shadow projection. Like this stagnant energy has a certain frequency, and when a frequency that matches that comes in and reflects, causes that resonance to occur, it's like you just have this whirlwind of trauma show up. And so it feels like a lot of work, and it is. And that's why it's really important that as you start to step into the willingness to have a different possibility, pick something that is going to give you a construct to go through and do the shadow work and do the shadow integration. Because it's not just about, you know, it's really about taking the things, embracing all of you. Allowance is a huge key to it all. If you're in full allowance of you, there would be no pools of energy that would interact with each other. Like there, you would be in a space of non-judgment. Those pools wouldn't be able to hold water; they would drain out effortlessly, right? But you need some sort of context. And now I was fortunate; I was in therapy, so I was getting tools from IOP. I was getting tools from my therapist, and ironically, my therapist was in this building that one half was like mental health, the other half was a holistic center. And I didn't even know. It was like the Center for Holistic Energy and Applied Metaphysics. And about in my 1 year sobriety date, she's like, I think you're ready for the other side of the building. And that's when I started learning esoteric astrology and the seven rays, and studied Alice Bailey and all kinds of things. And I got hungry for knowledge, but at the same time I was kind of coasting. Like I was doing my work, but I wasn't really going into the depths of my soul. There were things there from childhood and things I didn't even remember until like years later, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I started doing, like, you're always looking, what else is there for me to work on? Like what else is there that is causing my reality to show up askew from what I would really like to create? And there were a series of events, and that's for a different day and a different stream, that it's like, wow, I didn't even know this stuff was there. And really getting vulnerable. And that's really the thing that changed about a year ago. In February, I had this situation happening in my life where I was looking at it and I'm like, wow, I don't want to end up like that. And I'm kind of speaking general because I want to honor everybody involved and whatnot. And I'm like, universe, I am not going to end up like that. I demand, notice the demand word again, right? Like, God help me, I demand something different. And then everything in my world changed. And I thought my life was, everything got turned upside down. And it was called a Pachacuti in shamanism. World turned upside down. Like literally everything was like, I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know what was going on. And now it's like this such a great space. But in this turn, I was willing to be present and do the work. And that's the thing. Like if you're willing to notice when things happen, and instead of smush them down and hide them, If you choose to be vulnerable with yourself and with another human being, like the mortar of that brick loosens. And this is an analogy that I use in one of my classes. In fact, my path to sobriety, in a way, is very reflective of what I'm offering in the world now. Because about 10 years ago, in a workshop of Dick Sutphin's Life Activation Workshop, and if you don't know Dick Sutphin, amazing work. He was kind of like the pioneer of past life regression hypnotherapy. And in the different accounts, he started noticing these trends of past lives and really pioneered it. And he has a whole bunch of content out. Hay House recently bought all the content. He passed away, and the estate sold it all to Hay House. It used to be on Amazon Music for free, some of them, but it's definitely worth. He has CDs for everything. It's like using binaural beats and all that. But I was in staffing one of the workshops for him, and it was this life activation workshop. And in deep meditation, I got this acronym: "As I Forgive Me." And it is a metaphysical process to inner work. And I've used it myself, and so like I'm living proof that it works, and I'm actually teaching it for the first time like this weekend. So like it's very exciting, and I'm putting together videos. It's going to be all like work at your own pace, all free content. It's on transcendentminds.org. You can sign up to be notified when it goes live. I'm doing the videos right now for that. So it's going to be like a free at your own pace thing. But like I realized that the steps and the whole word addiction, when people don't feel that they have anything, they shut off to receiving any of it. But the truth of it is like 12-step work came from the mystery schools in India. Dr. Bob was childhood friends with Raymond Cassidy. Raymond Cassidy founded Rishi's Metaphysical Institute in Euclid, Ohio, based on the information that was from the mystery schools. And so it's woven into the book and the work. And Bill Wilson, Dr. Bob, Bill Wilson, right? I got him right. They sat in development circles in Lilydale. That stuff they don't put in the book because it wasn't well received back then. So like, but all the information that stuff is, and here's what it all comes down to in a nutshell. So one, be willing to notice, that there's something going on, and be willing to have a different possibility, and give yourself a break. Be in non-judgment of where you're at, because if you resist where you're at, it will persist even more. I was defeated by my own shenanigans. I was like demanding to the universe, I must have something more than this, otherwise life's not worth living. And you hear that a lot of times from, like, Dr. Dane Heard said that. Neil Donald Walsh had a similar story, that you get to this point where you get sick and tired of being sick and tired. But in the space of a question and the true willingness to receive something different, you don't have to go to that low in order to start going back up and doing the work and doing the work and doing the work. Just be willing to show up to do the work and not be on autopilot anymore. Because as many tools as you have, if you just start reacting through life again, what's the point? It's like noticing and showing up for your experience, from eating your breakfast to brushing your teeth, every single moment being fully present and embodied. That's where you start to respond through life, and making choices based on your awareness instead of on your reaction, based on your personality program response, which is mostly programmed from your family and from society and from school and things like that. I do see some comments. I'll take them in a moment. Um, then but the other thing is, like, just where do I want to go with this? If you were to take, like, all the work that I've done, it really comes down to these basic premises. If you take this away, is you ask this question, and one, realize that you're connected with everything. And if in the world of COVID, if we don't have that awareness, seeing how one little virus has affected the entire world, how connected are we really? And if you look at quantum physics and entanglement theory and all this stuff, like, we are the same animated essence. We are the same level of divinity. Like, we're just all here experiencing ourselves differently. So if you really have the idea that, hey, you are one with everything, because, like, they say that when you have addiction, it's ego run riot. You are completely separated from all the other aspects of divinity, right? And so it's like breaking down the wall to realize, wow, I'm really connected with everything. Oh my God. And I don't feel alone anymore, because how could you be alone? Because you are everything, and there's all these other aspects of you. So that's like a huge weight there, just knowing you're not in it alone, and then starting to be able to receive. Because if you're all in it alone, you're not receiving from anyone, and you don't have a lot of resources. But it comes down to this question to start unraveling everything. When have I ever been unloving to myself or to another? When have I ever judged myself or another? You list that stuff out. That is all the bricks you have put off between you and yourself, between you and divinity. And then the question is, what could I be and do here to change this and to have a different experience around it? So I kind of use the analogy of you build up a wall between you and your higher self, or you and God, your entire until you stop building the wall. And then it's a matter of identifying the bricks. Where do you have the fear, anger, resentment? But all that stuff comes down to when have I not loved myself or another, or when I have I judged myself or judged another. It all comes down to that simple thing. Where am I not an allowance of the totality of all that is the crux of the question. You can ask a whole bunch of questions to get to way more refinement of answers. When have I been guilty? When have I been dishonest? When have I been self-justifying? When have I been selfish? When have I fill in the blank? And you list everything. And then to the right of that, you list who was affected by that. So now you've identified all the places where you built the bricks. You've identified all the other aspects of divinity that hold a charge. And then if you want to do Reiki, if you want to do energy work, if you want to actually go to those people and say, yo, this was something that I did and how can I make it right? It's about taking those bricks in and transmuting them into a lighter expression. And then continuing the process, like where are you putting up new bricks and all that type of thing. So that is it in a nutshell of how to stop drinking and how to shift from being dry to being sober. And I just saw a couple comments. We just had Tina saying good morning. Good morning, Tina. But if you guys have any questions, please let me know. My birthday is coming up March 13th. And I plan to do a stream on that day and kind of tell a little bit more of my personal story because I wanted to keep it more abstract today for people who are finding this as part of Dry January. I really ought to have done this earlier in the month. I was thinking about it and I'm like, wow, I could have done this earlier and had this out there for people because it's hard. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I was like, this is the last time I'm buying whiskey. And now I buy whiskey, but I use it to serve my spirits to serve the spirit, because I practice a couple different traditions where you use rum as an offering. So like it's always fun seeing my father-in-law like, why do you have rum? I'm like, it's not for me, it's for them. What do you mean? They think I'm crazy, and they're right. So I will give 30 seconds if you want to add, well, I'm say a minute. It's 9:17. We'll go to 9:18. If you have any questions, please let me know. Actually, while you think about questions, I'm going to play this video. This is for my As I Forgive Me workshop, and this kind of encapsulates my journey and how I'm packaging, in a way, my gifts in order to really help people to come to their own awareness and break their own addictions and things. So let's watch it together. Do you find yourself frozen in your day to day experience, not actually able to make a choice from a place of awareness, reacting through life instead of responding through conscious choice? Are you relying on your autopilot to get you through each day? As children, we are often taught not to be in favor of another person's judgment. Stop acting out. Everyone is staring. What will the neighbors think? Do any of these sound familiar? We are taught that we are separate from everything, and that it is a risk to receive kindness because we don't know someone's true motives. In other words, we are taught not to receive. We are taught that the only one that we can count on is us, and we develop a victim mentality of life, experiencing life happening to us instead of through us. We are taught to be a cog in the machine of the world. As we empower people's judgments, we are taught that having feelings of anger, hate, remorse, and guilt are wrong. That if we feel these things, there's something wrong with us. This cannot be further from the truth. The As I Forgive Me workshop is about taking down the brick wall between us and the divine, between us and our higher selves. Through a series of exercises, we identify the bricks and the substance of your wall. Through a process, we loosen the mortar, and we then integrate, transmute, and transform what once was a limitation into fuel for our future possibilities. What if the greatest gift you could be to the world is to be 100% the authentic you? What if you being you would inspire others to follow their unique voice as well? Join me for this experiential workshop and get the tools to be in the world but not of it, and allow life to happen through you in creationship with your fellow travelers. What would it take to choose? If not you, who? If not now, when? So there you go. And you know that last phrase, that came from Neil Donald Walsh. If not you, who? If not now, when? That is what started me on this journey. It was March of 2008. I had done my first actual 12-step work, and I had signed up for a 12-month life skills workshop with Neil Donald Walsh. And my target was that after I get this 1 year's worth of experience, I will start holding a Conversations with God discussion group. And I had only started it in, I think, January. And then here I am in March of 2008. And I'm in line to get my book autographed. And I was telling him about what I wanted to do and all this stuff. And as he's citing the book, he's like, if not you, who? If not now, when? Meaning, why wait? I went home. I started that month. I had my very first meeting and I ran that for over 10 years. I kind of put it, the energy shifted around and I'm considering bringing it back as a more general discussion group, like not just on the works of Neil Donald Walsh, but that's also when I found Reiki and when I found Spiritual Insight Training 1 and 2 at Fellowships of the Spirit in Lilydale, amazing program, and then continued on to their 2 year program and then learned everything I could, studying with Dick Suffin, Caroline Sutherland, Patty Conklin, Robert Pang, all these people. Like fellowships is great when they do their program. They bring in facilitators from around the world that are like experts in the field, like Sig Logren from England for sacred geomancy and all types of things, and just got hungry to take all this in. And one of my gifts is being able to blend things. Like if you've ever had a session with me, like you never know what it's going to be. Like, is it going to be sound? Is it going to be energy? Is I'm going to be dancing around the room, spitting Florida water and all that? Because like really every person is in a different space. And even if you have like a similar place that you're at right now, everybody got there a different way. So the frequency to unwind it and unravel it, that journey is unique for everyone too. There's not a cookie cutter fix all. What is the same though, everybody for true healing needs to be willing to really look at themselves and be rigorously honest and vulnerable with at least one other human being. And if you don't have anybody like that, find a priest in a Catholic church. I mean, even if you're not Catholic, like they won't know it's you. Go to a confession and share with one other person. So there's a value in that. I see why they do that, because in a way, the bricks that hold, or the mortar that holds the bricks together, that is our shame, our guilt, our self-judgment holding those things in place. But in the space of allowance, and then in the space of sharing it with another human being that can then say, I've heard worse, like we make the biggest mountains out of molehills. But once you share it, like your brain can't then like talk itself like that's not really true. Like you already shared it, and it starts to become disempowered. Like you do want to do it with someone that has a space of allowance, but it's so freeing to be vulnerable with someone. So freeing. Like there's two people specifically in my life, perhaps now a third, that I've bared my soul. They know everything about this crazy shaman dude. And that is such a beautiful thing to be able to do that and be in a space of being totally received for all your craziness, all the things that you think are crazy, to still be loved anyhow. It's like amazing. Even if people don't quite get it, or they might be like, well, that was a really interesting choice, but it's in the space of honoring your journey. That's very interesting contrast for the soul, because all of it, that is all it is. It's not good or bad or right or wrong. We label all that stuff based on how we're taught to be in the world. What it really is, and I just lost my train of thought. Come back, train of thought. No, come back. It was such a good thing too, but I guess it's maybe not for today. But the whole crux of it is just really be received, and to receive yourself. And in that space, like what else is possible? There's no right or wrong. There's only experience, which you can label any way you'd like. You can label it all as perfection, right? Oh, now remember, it's all contrast for the soul, because if it's true that source is all there is all at once in the ever-present moment of now, you know, then we are here to have a perceived experience of opposites. It's really not opposites, it's all gradients, but that's another stream for another day. So it's contrast for the soul, in the words of Neil Donald Walsh: in the absence of that which you are not, that which you are is not. I'm going to say that again. In the absence of that which you are not, that which you are is not. And in the duality, the perception of good and bad, right and wrong, which is also valid equally, that there is no good and bad and right and wrong. Both, all the greatest truths are paradoxes, just so you know. That's why it doesn't seem to make any sense, because one is true in the duality. We absolutely have right and wrong. And one is true in the oneality. There is no right and wrong. They're both true at the same time, and it's really a mind trip, right? But if you can function from the space of oneality in the duality, that's where you're in the world, but not of it. And that's where you can start to manifest divinity on the physical plane. And so looking at your past, not as right or wrong, but as beautiful contrast for the telenovela of the soul, that is where like you have this freedom that starts to occur, a freedom that you're here for the raw experience and you get to label it, and you can label it as all this is amazing, you know. But anyway, I didn't plan to talk this long. But as you know, if you've seen my streams, like I start talking and then I just keep going. So let me put this little banner up too, because my it went away when I played the video. So if you want to follow me, all my social media and stuff is all along the bottom. I've been doing all these crazy TikToks. I wish I could play this one that I did with the snow plowing. It's so funny, but it has like the Rocky music, so like it would totally get taken down for copyright. But it was really really good. So look forward to more content from me in the near future. March 13th, my birthday, I'll be doing a live stream telling a little bit more about my story and also talking about the solar return, which is when you get a seed of inspiration from your higher self to work with throughout the year, and a specific journaling process of inner work using astrology called secondary progression. So I'm going to gift both of those things on my birthday live stream. And until then, thank you so much. And please like, subscribe, comment, share, do all that stuff. Help spread the contagion of consciousness by sharing this content with somebody that you feel will benefit. Thank you so much. I love all of you.